Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alan Potcotter, and you're listening to CallTalk for December 21st, 2018. Today's topic is turning your contact center into a profit center by leveraging chat. If you're listening live, we invite you to be part of the show and ask questions. Here's how you can do it. Email me at calltalk@benchmarkportal.com. I want to remind everyone that all of our shows are archived and available to be listened to at benchmarkportal.com any time of the day. And now with that, I'd like to introduce the host of the show, Bruce Belfiore.
Thank you, Alan, and happy holidays to everybody. Welcome back to Call Talk. Well, among the call center or contact center channels, chat has gotten a lot of attention lately. And that's why we wanted to talk about turning your contact center into a profit center by leveraging chat. Live chat is growing in use, especially among millennial customers, and chat communications can be optimized using machine learning these days in order to improve engagement, reduce costs, and grow sales. So we brought an expert in on the topic for you, Tony Medrano. Welcome to the show, Tony.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Bruce. Thanks.
Okay, well, by way of introduction for our listeners, Tony Medrano is the CEO of RapportBoost, a chat analytics platform that uses machine learning to help agents optimize conversations with their customers. And Tony's got a lot of experience. He received his MBA and JD from Stanford, his MA from Columbia and B.A. from Harvard. So coast-to-coast academic credentials. Kudos to you, Tony. That's great. So,
well, thanks, Bruce. You too.
Okay, thanks. So, Tony, in general, there are two ways to increase profitability for any contact center or any operation, either increase sales or cut costs. Do you have a preference?
Yeah, absolutely. I really prefer to focus first on sales opportunities because there are often a lot of low-hanging fruit there and because sales is just more fun. Believe it or not, revenue growth is often underutilized as a potential driver of contact center profitability. Some contact center leaders believe that sales opportunities need to be sacrificed in order to provide the best customer service.
Yeah,
we don't see it that
actually,
way.
Well, that's good because, I've seen that as well, that there's some people who, even at the managerial level, say we're customer service, we don't want to do cross-sales, up-sales, we're uncomfortable with that. But when, in fact, you can actually be doing a wonderful service for customers by bringing to their attention things that make sense for them. So, yeah, please continue on with that, but I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Customers don't want to be sold to, but oftentimes they want to buy. They want to learn. There's some opportunities there, and agents don't need to be salesy. Sales opportunities don't need to be sacrificed, right? If customers are listened to and guided through a more efficient journey, they're just more likely to buy. And leaders can use technology to uncover these opportunities without making their agents sound salesy or even know they're selling. So this is often just unnoticed opportunity in a lot of contact centers. It excites me to see opportunities like that where we can make a difference. But yeah, in working with multiple brands and different types of contact centers, our data science team discovered the outcomes of a very large percentage of chat conversations can actually be changed. Sales opportunities exist in normal conversations, but they need to be first identified and then acted upon. And this is the crux of conversational commerce that we hear about, but it applies not just to voice, but to chat as well. And this is where the machine learning comes in that you mentioned, Bruce. Machine learning can really help agents identify and act upon many of these subtle nuances in conversations that humans just don't have the time or the analytic capability to review millions of transcripts and look for subtle nuances like that. This is a great task for machine learning.
Right. Right, it does. And what have you found? Do you have any statistics around how this can actually help in terms of the sales process and success?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we found, and we have a team of data scientists and conversational scientists that analyzed millions of conversations and found that better chat conversations can drive changes in order size 55% of the time and change a no sale, a conversation that ends in a no sale, to one that ends in a sale 64% of the time. This was actual conversations between real buyers and real brands. So this can deliver hundreds of thousands of dollars per year in increased sales per agent.
That's pretty compelling. Those are pretty compelling statistics. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, big numbers, and it's exciting. You don't need to have a big operation to be able to increase profitability when you look at it at that per agent level.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you, Tony, what's driving an increase in innovation around chat? What are the real drivers? Because we, see things that are hyped here and there, but what do you see is really driving that, and what trends are you seeing in the market that are driving the market?
Yeah, a lot of trends are coming together right now. It's really the perfect storm of innovation in chat. In this year, 2018, McKinsey issued a customer care report that highlighted four main drivers of these innovations in chat. And they were customer preferences, cost, technology, and agent training. And anyone who runs a contact center can say, yeah, those are things I worry about on a daily basis. And now those are opportunities for innovation.
Mm-hmm. Can you sort of drive down into each of those and give us some more juice? Because those obviously, as you say, are things that everybody is concerned about. But I'd be interested to hear what McKinsey said with regard to those drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. So changing customer preferences. Generally, the internet has made it easier for customers to defect and quickly choose another brand. They're absolutely less loyal and more impatient than ever. And some demographic groups, like you mentioned, millennials, inherently prefer chat as a medium of communication. They're digital natives. They grew up, texting and chatting, not using the phone as much.
Right.
Contact centers need to evolve to meet the customers where the customers want to be. Where some percentages of those customers will just leave. They'll go elsewhere. They'll find a brand that uses the channel that they want to connect in. And in a hyper-competitive market like we have today, it's really risky to ignore a growing demographic.
Yeah. No, that's a really, really important demographic there. I mean, I can't underline what you're saying enough, because I think of my own son, who's in that generation, and when he was a little bit younger, we were in Scouts, and we had a SUV full of Scouts, and he's in the front seat next to me, and he's on his iPhone. And I said, William, why don't you communicate with the people who are in the car? And he said, Dad, I am. And I said, put the phone down, turn around, and talk. But they don't. So, we, as you say, we have to be adaptive to them, and make sure that the means of communication that they feel most comfortable with, that they have grown up with, we're able to service them on. So that's a great point, Tony. Please go on.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's fun that those examples, everybody feels them. A lot of people have children in that same circumstance, and it's our time to adapt to them because their buying power is growing. Millennials is a broad group. But there's also a couple trends there that, in relation to customer preferences, that aren't based on demographics. They're based a little more on use case. And you mentioned some of that in the car. That was a unique use case, maybe more demographic related. But some use cases naturally favor certain types of engagement. Maybe your children wanted to communicate, but they didn't want you to hear what they were saying. Perfect example. Another use case is complex inquiries. So for complex inquiries, 38% of customers prefer to be connected to a live agent right away. It makes sense. Complex question and answer. You want to talk to somebody live that can help you. Compared to only 16% that prefer live agents for routine inquiries. Not everybody needs a live agent all the time, and sometimes you just want an answer, and it's okay if it comes from a machine, an FAQ, an email. But oftentimes, consumers engage with the brand while they're at work. We're in a quiet place, like a library, an office, or the backseat of a car, where a phone call might be difficult. You don't want others overhearing you, right? And sometimes synchronicity is paramount. This is a big, a growing trend.
Synchronicity. That's a great word, Tony. Tell us about synchronicity in this.
Yeah. Well, I think it was a Police song back in the day. I'm not sure if that's Police or Sting, but what it refers to is really the timing of the conversation, the cadence. And this is so important. Customers or potential customers come to chat because they're expecting an immediate response, and they have an opportunity, the agent has an opportunity to really engage them in a back and forth conversation instead of an email back and forth, which can take days. It can transmit more information for sure, but the cadence is different. There's no synchronicity there. So, real-time response is usually one of the driving factors on the consumer side that causes them to use chat, to select chat. So contact center leaders, agents, brands as a whole need to realize that. Those are the customer expectations. They're not the same as in other channels. So, in addition to that, right, these trends have increased, and the importance of responding right away to customer and prospective customer inquiries, it creates a lot more risk. Other brands are out there innovating in these new channels, so those that don't innovate, get the customers, are more likely to lose them. So customer preferences, as McKinsey stated, really the number
Tony,
one.
I'm sorry, could I just interject here something about that we've noticed, because we've been collecting data on alternative channels for several years now, and that includes chat. And when chat first started, there were more simultaneous chats that you could do. Obviously, if you had the right agent taking care of it, because some agents are really good at multiple simultaneous chats, others are not so good at it. But for those who are good at it, they could do it. But the expectations of customers have changed over the last several years. And in the early times, people saw it a little bit closer to email, and they were willing to wait a little bit more for the chat person to come back to them. Now that's gone. They want, as you said, the synchronicity, particularly when they're talking on a commercial level to a company and not, sending something off to their friend. And therefore, the number of simultaneous chats people, even good ones, are able to handle has gone down in terms of the stats. So anyway, just thought I'd toss that in.
No, absolutely. That's what we see across the board too, because customers are more demanding. They expect a quicker response, and they expect somebody who's really engaged in the chat. Otherwise, they'll just go to email. So it's interesting to see that bifurcation of what it means to be of digital communication, right? Some brands still bunch email. Some chat platforms even bunch email and chat messages together in one channel. And we've seen this convenient for the technology provider or maybe the brand, but detrimental to the P&L and the agent and the customer experience as well. So that's also, maybe skipping ahead a little bit, but if you want to increase profitability of your contact center, one tip, break apart the different channels, just like you mentioned, Bruce. So in relation to how many concurrent chats can be handled, and we see 2 to 4 is really the norm. And, chat is a good lever there because chat agents can, they have more variables and more options. So unlike a phone agent, analog one-on-one conversation with one customer, Chat agent can handle 2 very well, and maybe peak up to 4 or 5 and get them done. And if there's a rush, if a TV ad just came out and there's a flush of new visitors to your website, chat's a great medium to deflect phone calls to, because it just has a little more elasticity of capacity, and that's super important to the staffing models of contact centers. So chat's really being used to that as a backstop for contacts.
So in addition to the changing customer preferences in the McKinsey thing and the new opportunities for cost reduction, which you've just talked about very well, tell us more about the McKinsey study.
Yeah, you have 2 other main points. One was technology, and just that it provides opportunities for increased leverage. And remember, leverage works on the way up and on the way down. It can confuse agents if not integrated properly, or they're not trained on it properly, but also can make things much more efficient. We've seen chat agents able to handle 5 or 6 conversations almost perfectly with technology by augmenting them with a lot of, doing away with some of their manual and repetitive tasks, really, supercharging those agents instead of giving them dashboard overload and all kinds of knowledge bases and suggestions that are just really not tied together, right? So if you separate the wheat from the chaff and really have the agents focused on what matters, technology helps. And then the fourth, and most important driver for McKinsey was agent training. And you can imagine agent training has always been important. But with all these new technologies, it's becoming even more important to have agents trained right. There's more at stake in chat conversations because customers will switch. They'll leave your brand for another at the drop of a hat, and agents have to do more. There's bots maybe helping them. There's a deeper knowledge base of technical answers. There's time pressures of spikes in numbers of chats. So the agents really need to be on their toes. And we're seeing that agent training is really rising as a topic of discussion in contact centers, as well as the strategic focus of a consulting agency like McKinsey. It says, hey, contact centers, agent training is going to be around forever, growing, and even a better lever. And, give you some examples, but
please do. I think that it would be helpful for our listeners just to hear some thoughts and examples that you have from your own experience.
Yeah. So sometimes agents are worried about being replaced by technology, and we've come in and helped a lot of digital transformations in contact centers, and that's usually the first thing we get is, oh my gosh, you guys are here to replace us. And we're like, no, we're here to make things easier by teeing up what you need and augmenting your intelligence. And Jenny Craig is a great example, right? They're a brand that leveraged augmented intelligence to drive their contact center profitability. Instead of using bots to, say, replace agents or other uses of the knowledge base that were less personal, what they wanted to do was more deeply engage their website visitors and their customers in better conversations about weight loss. And you can imagine, weight loss is a sensitive, emotional issue. Lots of different people, come to food and diet food and weight loss providers with a lot of interesting personal questions and stories in certain times in their lives. And having a good conversation in that situation was so key. And we were so excited to work with them because we realized right away those conversations are going to be rich and valuable. So we were honored to be trusted by a great brand like Jenny Craig to help design their conversations. And, the agents, after the first couple days, they realized, oh, okay, you guys are here to help. You're not building a robot to replace me. We've helped tell them what was important in their conversations. They implemented it, and it's led to a 67% year-over-year increase in contact center revenue. Generally the same number of agents and website traffic, just better conversations. So the message there is that, Yeah, no,
Go ahead.
we're excited. Oh, well, agent training matters. That's where you can drive profitability. If you're a contact center leader out there, you think about all these other either financial or cost drivers. If you have better agents having better conversations, it's a virtuous cycle. Not only do you get more sales, but you get higher retention, you get more employee satisfaction, and that leads to a lot of good, a great contact center culture. And then the top line revenue growth is something that the CFO and CEO always love. 67% year over year is people take notice when it's that kind of transformation. That's what they're hoping to buy when they buy digital transformation at the CFO level.
One of the things that occurs to me too here, Tony, is that, in an area such as weight loss, as you said, it's a sensitive area, an emotional issue, very intimate for the person who's talking. And in some cases, obviously, you're going to have people who want the voice contact. You're going to have other people who prefer not to have the voice contact or have face-to-face. They don't want face-to-face even, right, to begin with. Obviously, then they move toward a trust position, and that becomes okay. But to start with, there's some who will say, no, I don't want the face-to-face. Some of those will say, I don't even want the voice-to-voice. I'd like to be able to sort of explore this through chat, which is one more step removed. And if, on the other hand, the chat conversation, as you said, displays the sensitivity, the emotional understanding that's necessary, then you can move them to the point where you can have the voice to voice or face to face or whatever it is that you're looking for. And I can see this being important in areas like weight loss and in terms of some financial products, where people are reticent to be talking a whole lot about their financial situation, some certain health situations or gyms, for exercise and that sort of thing. So I think that's a really interesting concept. And boy, that stat about 67% increase year over year in contact center revenue really hits people between the eyes. Wow, that's something.
Yeah.
Can I ask you another question too? Because the time is going along here, so we've got, I think, more to cover. Well, what other changes in customer preferences are you finding are creating opportunities for contact center innovation and profitability?
Yeah. Customers' expectations are through the roof and accelerating, and they're expecting faster responses in general, right? They're more impatient. I mentioned that earlier. There's a 2018 Forrester report that mentions email as still the most common channel for customer support. But in a related survey, 41% of customers preferred live chat compared to only 23% who preferred email. So email's out there, but customers want a little more chat. And they want it because the response time is on average 47 seconds. Email, it's a couple hours. And instead of viewing this consumer impatience as decreasing, and their lack of loyalty as obstacles, contact center leaders are looking at it and seeing opportunities. So these are the opportunities that are being created by change, right? Specifically, if customers can be quickly engaged in an efficient conversation, one that has a high emotional component, a lot of EQ, rapport building, and trust building, and their needs can be addressed, they're just more likely to buy. So fast, skilled agents are acquiring customers from their competitors at a much higher rate, and this is just fueling even more competition among contact centers. Slower, less skilled agents with less information at their fingertips are losing customers faster.
Interesting. Let me take a step back and ask a higher level question. Why is chat different than voice or email as a channel of communication with customers? And, why should contact centers use different metrics for each channel?
Yeah. Often experienced and, great contact center leaders sometimes overlook the differences in the languages of voice, email, and chat. They grew up, spent 30 years of their career managing a call center. And we've just seen lately that term being revised to be a contact center for that specific reason. But there are a couple powerful nuances in the language that's used. I'll step back first and say, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay, great. So we see at the highest management level of contact centers that their metrics can be updated in two key areas. The first is to focus on value type of metrics, like customer lifetime value or renewal rate. A lot of legacy contact centers still focus on generic time-oriented metrics, like handle time. And these really are related to their origins in a voice-only world, where in a digital world, that element of time matters less. Value, finance matters a little more. So in order to have agents align with senior leadership, agents should be measured by what matters most to the business. And that usually makes the C-suite pretty happy. And also, in examples like Jenny Craig, it's a way to motivate their agents. When agents understand the why of what they're doing, they just get more engaged. They ask smart questions. They're more excited. They do things faster. They get a little extra 10% out of them when people understand the why. And, the second key area where metrics can be updated is to match the metrics with the channel. And I mentioned this, before in a few examples. But the response time is drastically, customer expectations for response time are drastically different in chat, 47 seconds, than in email, a few hours. In voice, there's tone. There's a lot of other things that can be measured, like volume. In chat, other things are more important. It's harder to create an emotional bond in a chat conversation, and the cadence is a lot quicker. Back and forth needed to be measured much more than in email. So since all of those elements of the conversations are different, they need to be measured differently and not grouped together. One software company that we worked with was grouping email and chat conversations together, looking at them in the same, with the same metrics. Once we peeled them apart, they realized, oh my gosh, they were masking both the successes and the failures. They were able to immediately make some changes. Respond to chats fast. Make email, use complete sentences in emails, but don't worry about it in chat. And their metrics just shot through the roof overnight. It was really fantastic to see those type of changes.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, too, with metrics that you have to keep in mind, too, is there's the metrics that can be compared with others and metrics that you can just follow internally, month after month, week after week, whatever it happens to be. And the thing about those where you're comparing yourself to others is it has to be apples to apples. And if the, way to measure things is not uniform, then it's better not to do it because you'll end up probably making the wrong decision. So, for instance, you mentioned tone as a metric. That's not usually considered a metric for comparison from one company to the next because you don't have that kind of, you don't have a peer group that you can go against. So I think it's important, for instance, those time-based metrics, those are very important for things like comparing yourself to others. What is your average speed of answer, your average handle time, all that kind of stuff. But for purposes of internal improvement, then you can compare yourself to yourself month to month. Over time, we're always at the leading edge of this, looking for things that are becoming sufficiently standardized so that you can get a statistically valid view among centers so that you can come up with industry averages and then do the comparison. But, yeah, those are really important things. Yeah. So let me ask you this, too, because we are sort of running low on time, but there's so much here, Tony, really. You've got so much great content. What do you mean by perfect their conversational metrics? Because you mentioned that you want to perfect conversational metrics in the chat area. And why is this important?
Great question. It dovetails well with your internal metrics. So conversational metrics, we refer to them as Those are the internal metrics that a brand can use to highlight what matters in their conversations. And different things matter to different brands. One of the benefits of chat conversations is that they can be mined for trends with machine learning and AI, and then perfected. So you mentioned EQ earlier as well. There's a lot of conversational metrics related to that are driving chat performance and sales performance, and the brands don't even know it. And let me give a couple examples. Certain elements of chat conversations are more important than others. And humans often guess wrong because chat is new and they're using their experience on voice to guess what should be right with chat. By analyzing chat conversations of Jenny Craig, we found that the level of formality that they were using in chat conversations was a huge driver of chat sales. And Jenny Craig's agent specifically believes that being less formal in chat would be a good way to engage millennials. And everybody's looking for a way to engage millennials, and a lot of us are confused, right? Because they're different. They're texting each other in the back of cars. How do we figure that out? But it makes sense to be less formal in chat communications if you want to connect to millennials, right? Jenny Craig's leadership was unsure. They didn't want agents to be using a lot of LOLs, contractions, and smiley faces. They didn't think it was right for their 40-year-old brand. There was a stalemate and some confusion. So we mined the data and of their chat conversations, thousands of messages, and discovered that chat conversations for Jenny Craig were super formal already, and that if they became even more formal, that they would close more sales. Their customer expectations were for increased formality in their conversations, more rapport, more empathy, and more formality. So a different a combination of emotional attributes in the conversation. Rightfully, nobody had the technology or the thought to look that deeply in the conversations, but those were some of the key drivers, and so a unique conversational recipe was designed specifically for their brand, and that was based on their conversational metrics that mattered to them. What's the right level of empathy? Too much is cheesy. Too little sounds just like you don't care, and those things are fascinating for our data science team to analyze. But then to roll them out with brands, it really helps their brand identity and their revenue.
Wow, that's really interesting. I love the phrase too, chat conversation recipe, when you're talking about Jenny Craig. I think this is just really good. That is just fabulous. Very interesting. Well, so it sounds like there's a lot of science to chat conversations these days. At least you're bringing that to it, Tony. Talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. Data science is really powerful, and science can be used to analyze and design conversations, and especially in chat because it's new. There's a lot of desire, for chat to be used more, but there's a lot of confusion about how to do it right. So, the elements of digital conversations can be dissected and optimized easier than voice. So think of a chat conversation is like a landing page or an email message, but real time between two parties. We've always optimized and analyzed landing pages and email messages. And you can use the same techniques, although they have a lot more variables, to analyze conversations. And the customer journey through a chat conversation can be mapped objectively and quantitatively into better results, not just better sales results, but happiness on each side, a more pleasant conversation. And then agents can be trained using this science, these scientific results. It makes them happier, more motivated. They feel smarter. They're getting, increasing their conversational skills. And the coaching is based on what really drives the chat outcomes, not the personal English teacher-like preferences of their manager, right? Their manager may hate exclamation points, but we've seen some brands that we've recommended, use a little more exclamation points and some LOLs and all caps. That'll help sales. And they go, really? Absolutely it will. And then for others, we tell them exactly the opposite, because that's what the science says, is that, for your brand, don't be quite so young and happy sounding. Be a little
Interesting. Okay, so there's somewhere they might say, okay, use the subjunctive tense and don't split your infinitives, right? And in other cases, not. Obviously, I've taken it to an extreme, but that's really, really interesting. Well, let me ask you, okay, so how does the use of augmented intelligence transform the contact center culture? Let's go to that, because you were sort of talking about that a little bit, but we're running a little low on time, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, culture is everything. People drive the culture, and for us, helping people be more successful at their jobs, it motivates us every day. And then those brand ambassadors, they translate that general satisfaction to their customers, and it's a wonderful virtuous cycle. The best contact center cultures we've seen, because we see many, are those that involve agents in the business outcomes. Jenny Craig being a good example. Those agents, there are scoreboards and stack rankings all over. They know what a sale means. They understand they're providing great value to their customers. They're motivated by it, and their senior management CEO stops by the contact center all the time. So there are great avenues for career growth, and they're really based on helping people. And these conversational metrics really, they help form a foundation for that. Better conversations make for better brand ambassadors, and that gets the CMO excited about sending traffic that will end up being a visitor talking to a chat agent, because they know the agents, they know they're happy, and they can trust that culture. It makes hiring, retention, all those kind of metrics go up. So people are generally getting a lot of secondary and tertiary benefits from just creating a culture that helps people and is focused on the business outcomes, not just average handle time, for example.
Right. Okay. And in this whole sort of universe, what about the position of chat bots? Tell us about that and your thoughts on chat bots.
Yeah, chat bots have been, all the rage, and then, exactly the opposite 6 months later. But the reality is somewhere in between. Chat bots are great in certain situations and just terrible in others. And it's really important for contact center leaders to understand, so they can move quickly through the chatbot landscape and start investigating solutions that work for their brand and not waste time on others. But, as you all know, a lot of contact center agents are burdened with simple, repetitive tasks, like resetting passwords, checking balances, and, basic questions. Not only does this take time, but it bores the agent. The agents don't like it, and, it increases churn rate. It's a great use case for a chatbot, those simple, repetitive functions. The customer service chatbot is also, it's unique, and this is something that is not explained well in the media. The customer service chatbot, the purpose is not to sound human or make small talk. It's not really to chat. It's to efficiently lead customers to knowledge. Customer service chatbots don't need to learn how to actually chat with a sophisticated level of comprehension. They just need to make the customer inquiry process more efficient. So helping guide self-discovery through a knowledge base is a great use for a chatbot. Using chatbots in a sales situation, totally different. Trust is required. The goal of a sales opportunity is mutual agreement, not simple discovery. So it's difficult for a human, potential customer to build rapport or trust with a chatbot, in a sales scenario when there's money at stake.
Right. Okay. Listen, these are great insights, and we've run to the end of our time at this point. But Tony, I really appreciate your sharing your insights and your experience with us. Just some really, really great thoughts. Is there any final thing that you wanted to say before we hand things back over to Alan for the wrap-up?
No, it's been great. I love your questions, and your experience, your show is wonderful. So I'm looking forward to follow-up questions from the audience, and we'll be here to help anyone guide them through this transformation of their contact center.
Okay. Well, very good. As I say, we've kind of run to the end of our time. Anybody who has questions for Tony and can't find him directly, please get in contact with us, and we'll make sure that you get in touch with him. So, Tony, thank you so much. Really great show. I appreciate your insights, as I said. And with that, we'll hand things over to, we could be here talking about it all day. We've gone later than most shows do. So that's really good information. So with that, I'll hand things back over to Alan, and he can wrap up the show.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce.
Thanks again to Tony and Bruce Belfiore for a great discussion on today's show. Be sure to join us next month for another great show, or look at our huge selection of archive shows and topics at BenchmarkPortal.com. Then click on CallTalk, where you'll find over 9 seasons of this show. From all of us here at Benchmark Portal, keep those headsets steady and your fingers ready. This is Alan Pockhotter signing out. Have a great day.